So, you've been cruising through Honkai Star Rail, feeling pretty good about your team, right? Then, bam! You hit one of those bosses. You know the ones, giant creepy space bugs or puppet masters with moves so deadly, they make you question your entire build. These bosses don't just test your damage output, they're coming for your sanity with debuffs, multi-phase nightmares, and mechanics tighter than a Pathstrider's armor. If you thought relic farming was stressful, wait until you're one shot away from seeing the game over screen. Sure, you could dial it back with casual mode, but where's the fun in that? For the true Trailblazers out there, these fights are the ultimate test of your strategy, patience, and team synergy. Whether it's juggling elemental weaknesses, managing turn order, or just praying your healer doesn't get nuked, these battles are as rewarding as they are brutal. So buckle up, because today we're diving into the hardest boss fights in Honkai Star Rail. Let's see if you're really up for the challenge. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. Alright, let's talk about one of the most intense boss fights in Honkai Star Rail, the Doomsday Beast. This massive, multi-limbed monstrosity is no joke. Sure, the first time you meet it, Welt swoops in to save the day, but the second time, you're on your own and this beast isn't holding back. Its left and right arms pack a punch with imaginary and quantum damage that can wreck your party if you're not careful. And that antimatter engine in the middle? Oh, it's not just for decoration, it's dishing out buffs to the whole body and charging up a devastating single-target nuke that will have you scrambling to survive. Here's the deal. You don't just fight the Doomsday Beast, you dismantle it. Its body is split into three parts, the arms and that cursed engine. To bring it down, you've got to break through each part one at a time. This isn't just for show. Doing so leaves the beast wide open for your hardest hits. Timing is everything here. Unleash your big damage dealers when those vulnerabilities appear and you might just get through the first phase. But don't get cocky, because phase 2, that's where the gloves come off. Higher damage, nastier debuffs, and a relentless assault that'll push your team to its limits. Surviving this fight is all about strategy. Bring characters who can break its weaknesses. Physical and imaginary are your best friends here, and don't forget healers or shielder units to keep your team standing through the chaos. The Doomsday Beast isn't just a boss, it's a test of everything you've learned up to that point. Fail to prepare and it'll be a very long walk back to the Astral Express. But nail your setup and strategy, watching that beast crumble is one of the most satisfying moments in the game. Alright, let's talk about Coolia, Mother of Deception, the boss that turns your cozy space train adventure into a frosty nightmare. If you've made it to the end of the Jarilo 6 storyline, you know exactly what I mean. Coolia starts off as a regular human, sure, but once she embraces the power of the Stellaron, things get real. Her ice attacks are no joke. 1 second, you're strategizing your next move, the next, half your team is frozen solid like popsicles. If you're not prepared, she'll absolutely leave you staring at the defeat screen. And just when you think it's over, she hits you with her second phase. Oh, you thought it couldn't get worse? Say hello to her massive AoE imaginary attacks. These are the kind of hits that make your healers work overtime. Got no healer? Good luck. You'll need it. Her combos are relentless and the debuffs? Brutal. You'll be scrambling to cleanse them or stacking effect resistance like your life depends on it. Spoiler alert, it kind of does. So, how do you beat her? Bring a well-leveled team, pack solid damage dealers, and don't skimp on supports who can cleanse or resist debuffs. Oh, and keep a steady hand, because Coolia doesn't just test your team's stats, she tests your patience. If you're underleveled or lack firepower, she'll feel like an icy brick wall you can't climb. But when you finally take her down, the victory feels so sweet, it's almost worth all the suffering. Almost. Ah, Aventurine of Stratagems. If you faced him in Honkai Star Rail, you already know it's not just a boss fight, it's a psychological game of chance. This guy doesn't just hit hard, he messes with your head. Picture this. You're standing there, ready to strategize, when suddenly it starts raining giant imaginary dice. These bad boys deal massive AoE damage, and you're scrambling to figure out if you should heal, shield, or just cry. But oh, it gets worse. Much worse. Aventurine's signature move? It's like being thrown into a cosmic casino, and spoiler alert, the house always wins. He'll summon 2 dice, daring you to break them before he calculates their combined value. If your number's lower than his, well, prepare to get slammed with devastating imaginary damage and have your entire team's actions delayed. Yes, that means your healer won't make it in time, your DPS is frozen in place, and you're left questioning all your life choices. It's brutal, but also kind of brilliant. Then comes the second phase. You thought the stakes were high before? Now Aventurine raises the bar, making you roll against an even higher number. Fail this round, and the consequences are catastrophic. By this point, you're not just fighting to win, you're fighting to survive the dicey chaos, pun intended. And let's be honest, every time you see those dice drop, your heart skips a beat. This fight is the perfect mix of strategy, luck, and sheer panic, making Aventurine one of the most unique and punishing bosses in the game. Alright, let's talk about one of the most mind-boggling boss fights in Honkai Star Rail, the Harmonious Choir. If you're the type of player who likes to go in swinging, thinking raw damage will solve all your problems, spoiler alert, it won't. The choir doesn't care about your over-leveled DPS or your fancy relic sets. This boss is all about patience, strategy, and breaking down that monstrous toughness gauge before it breaks you. Here's the thing, the choir's attacks aren't exactly devastating on their own. You won't find yourself wiped out by one stray AoE, but what it does do is constantly mess with your team. Sleep debuffs everywhere. No cleansers? Too bad. You're gonna watch your units snooze while their health bars slowly dwindle. And while you're scrambling to wake everyone up, the choir's melodic charms and pesky minions are out there reinforcing its defenses like it's some unbreakable fortress. It's like trying to fight a bard with a PhD in psychological warfare. But the real chaos starts in Phase 3. The choir's damage, suddenly through the roof. Your window to break its toughness bar, shrinking by the second. At this point, it's less about doing steady damage and more about a high-stakes race against time. If you're not using break effects or controlling the battlefield like a pro, this boss will steamroll your entire team. It's brutal, it's frustrating, but it's also one of the most satisfying wins you'll ever earn in the game. Alright, let's dive into one of Honkai Star Rail's most theatrical boss fights. The past, present, and eternal show. This isn't just a battle, it's a full-blown production. Imagine walking into an interstellar opera, only instead of sitting back and enjoying the performance, you're the one they're performing on. Each act of this deadly trio brings its own flair to the stage. And trust me, they're not pulling any punches. The past is your traditional heavy hitter, dealing raw, devastating damage that'll make you regret every missed defensive buff. Then there's the present, a master of DOT effects, who will gleefully pile on burns, poisons, and who knows what else to keep your health ticking down faster than you can heal. And finally, the future? Oh, they're a nightmare, drowning your team in debuffs that'll cripple your damage, slow you down, and make even basic attacks feel like a struggle. These three don't just work together, they dance. And when the second phase rolls around with Dance for Synchrony, they unleash all their tricks at once. Yeah, it's as painful as it sounds. Now, here's the kicker. Their health bar is shared. You might think, oh, that's nice. No, it's not. It means you have to deal with all three constantly, and there's no cheesing your way past one of them. This fight demands strategy, patience, and probably a backup controller for when you inevitably rage quit. If you're planning to take them on, bring your best team, load up on counters for status effects, and prepare for one of the most unforgettable battles in Honkai Star Rail. Alright, let's talk about one of the most brutal boss fights in Honkai Star Rail. Scaracabaz, the Star Crusher Swarm King. This guy isn't just a boss, he's a one-insect apocalypse with wings. Imagine going up against a bug-themed aircraft carrier, except instead of launching jets, it's spewing relentless flying drones and blasting you with quantum-based laser attacks that hit like a cosmic freight train. You don't come into this fight lightly, Scaracabaz is here to humble you. Now, let's break down why Scaracabaz is such a nightmare. The lasers alone are enough to keep you scrambling, but the real kicker? His minions. This oversized bug has a knack for spitting out smaller drones that don't just buzz around for decoration. Nope, they explode. Constantly. If you let too many pile up, you're basically playing a ticking time bomb simulator while trying to keep your team alive. It's not just a boss fight, it's crowd control chaos meets survival horror. So what's the strategy? You'll have to decide. Do you focus all your firepower on Scaracabaz and pray you can outlast the swarm, or do you take out the drones before they overwhelm you? Either way, you'll need some serious wind resistance and a solid plan to avoid watching your team get atomized. It's a fight that tests your patience, skill, and ability to multitask like a pro. Get ready for pain because Scaracabaz is here to make sure you feel it. Let's talk about one of the most brutal boss fights in Honkai, Star Rail. Something unto death. This boss doesn't just hit hard, it rewrites the rules of combat. Forget about trading blows. This is a fight where strategy is your only lifeline. The centerpiece of its mechanics is the Morbid Dream status effect. When your character gets hit with this, they're gone, dead, out of commission, replaced by a haunting little grave marker. Here's the kicker. The only way to bring them back is by attacking these markers until they break. So now, you're stuck in this nightmare decision. Do you burn precious turns saving your team, or do you go full assault on the boss? And just when you think you've got a handle on things, Phase 2 drops like a thunderstorm. Something Unto Death levels up with Watery Dissolution, an AoE version of Morbid Dream that can nuke multiple characters at once. It's chaos. If you don't have a game plan to deal with those markers, this phase will wipe your team faster than you can say, "I need a healer." It's a mechanic that forces you to think ahead. Bringing characters with marker-clearing abilities isn't just a good idea, it's survival one-on-one. The fight is punishing but weirdly satisfying in that masochistic, I love a good challenge kind of way. It tests your team comp, your strategy, and your ability to adapt under pressure. And yeah, it's frustrating, but when you finally beat this thing, oh, the sweet, sweet taste of victory is unmatched. Just don't expect to breeze through. Something Unto Death is the kind of boss fight that reminds you why you love Honkai Star Rail. It's brutal, it's clever, and it's unforgettable. Alright, let's talk about Stellaron Hunter, Sam. If you're diving into one of the hardest boss fights in Honkai Star Rail, buckle up, because this mecha warrior is here to make you question every choice you've made in your build. Sam's fight is all about endurance, strategy, and a pinch of luck. This isn't one of those fights where you just smash your way to victory. Oh no, Sam demands finesse. Starting in their normal state, they'll soak up your attacks like a sponge. But don't get too comfortable because the real nightmare begins when they hit their secondary combustion state. Now, in this fiery second phase, it's like Sam suddenly decides, you know what, I think I'll set everything on fire. Their damage skyrockets, unleashing a barrage of flaming attacks that make your health bars look like they're auditioning for a vanishing act. And here's the kicker. Every time you use a skill point, your entire team starts to feel the burn. Literally. This forces you to think twice about every action, every turn. Suddenly, your usual strategy feels like playing chess on a board that's actively trying to kill you. So how do you survive? It's all about the weakness bar. When Sam enters their secondary combustion state, breaking that bar becomes your lifeline. If you can shatter it, you'll buy precious time to regroup and maybe, just maybe, survive the onslaught. It's an absolute gauntlet of precision and timing. But hey, if you pull it off, the satisfaction of toppling this molten monstrosity? Unmatched. Just remember to pack a team that can handle the heat, literally. Good luck out there, Trailblazers. Alright, let's talk about one of the most ferocious boss fights in Honkai. Star Rail Hoola, the Lupine Berserker from the Borisin Warhead. This guy isn't just your average growl and slash wolfman, oh no, he's a walking, howling storm of destruction. From the moment you step into his den, it's all about survival. His signature move, Moon Rage, starts stacking irate like he's getting ready to cash in on a massive lightning strike. And trust me, when those 8 stacks hit, it's not just a thunderbolt, it's a declaration of war. Oh, and did I mention the Wolf Troopers? Because yes, he's got an entire furry army at his beck and call. Phase 2? That's when the gloves come off. Or, well, the claws come out. Hoola levels up and decides it's time to remind you who's in charge. Now, he's got this brutal AoE attack that feels like a bad breakup. It's sudden, devastating, and leaves you wondering what just happened. This is where your strategy has to be on point. If you thought dodging his lightning strikes and his Pax ambushes was tough, wait until the entire arena feels like it's electrified. It's chaos, pure and simple, but that's what makes it such an epic fight. What makes Hoola stand out isn't just his overwhelming power, it's the pacing. He's like this ticking time bomb, steadily building up his strength and letting you know that every second you don't take him down, he's inching closer to completely wrecking your team. It's this constant sense of pressure, like he's always on the verge of unleashing absolute carnage. If you're looking for a fight that tests your patience, your reflexes, and your ability to strategize under fire, Hoola is your guy. Just be ready to lose a few rounds, and maybe a little sanity before you finally take him down. Alright, let's dive into one of the hardest bosses in Honkai Star Rail, the Shadow of Fake Xiao. This fight is a true test of patience and skill. You're up against Fake Xiao herself, but she's not the version you're used to. Nope, this time she's brought her A-game, with a whopping 3 phases that ramp up in difficulty, keeping you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And just when you think you've got a handle on things, she brings out her ecliptic inner beast, which isn't just a random addition. This beast has 3 separate body parts that each deal their own chaos. It's not just a battle of strength, but of strategy and timing. If you manage to scrape your way into the third phase, things get real. Here's where it gets tricky. You absolutely need to break her weakness. If you miss that, you're in for a world of hurt. Why? Because she's got this move called Sweep the Heavens, Swallow the Earth. And trust me, it's not something you want to see up close. This attack doesn't just deal insane damage, but it also buffs all of Fei Xiao's unbroken parts. You've got to get her into that weakened state to stand any chance, or else you're basically asking for a one-way ticket to defeat. And here's why Fei Xiao's so terrifying. She's one of the 7 Arbiter Generals for a reason. This fight isn't just a physical battle, it's a full-on test of your team's coordination and your ability to react under pressure. Every moment counts, and each phase throws something new at you. Get ready for an intense ride, and remember, one slip-up could cost you the fight. Good luck out there, you'll need it. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.